Hey, good day, folks. Welcome to another episode of Andrew's Life. Uh, we're going to pick up here where we left off. As you guys already know, I'm going to be driving through the city of Bedford, Indiana. So I'm going to give you guys some general information about the city, and then I'll give you my 2 cents. So, Bedford, Indiana, excuse me, people. Bedford, Indiana is located in Lawrence County, which is located towards the southern section of Indiana, the mid-southern section. It is an hour and a half away from Indianapolis and Louisville, Kentucky. It is 35 minutes away from Bloomington, Indiana. So the population of Bedford is 13,233 people, and it has been losing people at a rate of 1.7% as of the 2020 census. The median home price here is actually not that bad. The median home price here is $125,000, which in my opinion is around the amount of money that you're going to need in order to buy something that's half decent. And the neighborhood I'm driving in right now is going to be the lower end of the city of Bedford. This is the lower end neighborhood right now. So, I mean, I'm not saying this area is bad particularly. However, if you want something a little more or a little better than what you see right now, then I would say 125 or more it will be an adequate amount for you to spend for your house if you're looking to move here to Bedford. And let's see here. Let's look at some rent prices. Alright, your median rent prices are going to go from $496 to $1,222 a month, which is not too bad. Now let's go to crime. Now when it comes to crime, your violent crime is well below national average. Your property crime is 21% above national average. And you guys already, for those of you that have been watching my channel, you pretty much already know where I stand when it comes to property crime. So I'm not going to talk about that here because I got a lot of other things I want to talk about on this video. Now, I will say one thing. Just by looking around in this neighborhood, I would have thought both the violent crime and the property crime would have been much higher, but it isn't. At least not according to data. Let's see. What do they say? Now, one thing I forgot to do. Now, given that this city is further away from larger cities, typically for a city like this, I tend to look at some of the jobs, some of the biggest companies that are here in Bedford, which I apologize, I forgot to do that. But I'm going to just go off of assumption and assume that the majority of the jobs that are available in this area are going to most likely be blue collar production type jobs. And if you have a higher level education, you might be able to get on at one of the educational institutions in Bloomington. But Bedford, Indiana, like many parts of Indiana, this is a typical blue collar Indiana city. So, I want to just say that if you're looking for work here, nine times out of 10, there's going to be at least a few different places that there's going to be at least a few different factories in town or in the surrounding area that you can go to and make a buck. I mean, you got that. I know for a fact they have at least a hospital here that you can go work at. I know they got at least a few nursing homes here. So even if you don't have any education or skill, I mean, you can go earn your state of Indiana CNA license and be a CNA. You can get you a job working at one of the factories. So I know for a fact that there are jobs to be had here. They may not be the best jobs, they may not be the best paying, but I'm pretty confident that there's jobs here. Okay, let's look at the people stats. See what the racial makeup of the city is. Alrighty. The racial makeup of Bedford is 94.4% white and 2.1% Hispanic. All the other ethnicities are well below 1%. So this is another one of those cities where if you're not concerned about diversity, this is the type, if you're not concerned about diversity, then this might be a city for you to consider. But obviously, if you're into living in communities that are more racially diverse, then as you guys now know, this is not going to be your city. Let's see what else I got here. Alright, I'm going to get my other set of notes here and give you guys some more information. Okay, now here's some other information about this city. Okay, the motto for Bedford is united in hometown values and committed to the growth for future generation. Well, I would say right now the city doesn't seem to be following that too well because, as we learned a minute ago, the population here is actually shrinking. I mean, it's not shrinking by much, but it is declining as opposed to growing. Now Bedford is known as limestone capital of the world, and it's surrounded by limestone quarries. Much of the limestone used in the construction of various Washington D.C. monuments was quarried in this area. Bedford limestone was used in the construction of St. Saul Serbian Orthodox Church in Maryville, Indiana. Bedford was featured as a subject of a 1 hour long PBS special, Our Town Bedford, that first aired in May of 1996. Bedford was recognized by Indiana in 2013 by being named a stellar community. What the hell does that mean? Well, basically in this case what it means is the city of Bedford, I guess $19 million was received by the, there was a total of $19 million in state, local, and private funds for Bedford. So the city of Bedford can do whatever it needs to do to make the necessary improvements to the city. Now for those of you that currently live in Bedford, I would love for you to drop a comment below and let me know whether not the city is allocating those funds properly or not, or whether you think they're allocating those funds properly or not. I would love to hear from you guys. And Bedford was also named the Chamber of Commerce Community of the Year in, I believe, 2013. Now, as far as things to do here, I mean, there are a few things to do here, and as typical, there, if you're looking for anything that's more exciting, then you're gonna have to drive up to Bloomington, Indiana for that, or you're gonna have to drive to Louisville or Indianapolis. But as far as things to do here in Bedford, you can go to the Blue Spring Cavers, which is basically a boat tour through the Blue Springs Cave. You can go to the Hoosier National Forest, which they got a park which has a walking trail and a biking trail, and you can also go kayaking in the man, I forgot whether that was a lake or river, but you can go kayaking there too. They also got the Milwaukee Trail, the Lawrence County Historical and Genealogical Society. And they also got the Salt Creek Brewery. I'm getting tired of people. My apologies. So those are the things that they have as far as entertainment here in Bedford. Now I'm going to give you guys my 2 cents about this city. Now, in my humble opinion, although this city does have a nicer side, as you guys will see later in this video, I'm not gonna, to me, this city is definitely a little more ran down than what I thought it would be. I don't know what made me think of this, but when I came here to record this video, I was thinking that this city was going to be a little nicer than what it is. Now, I'm not saying this is a bad place or any of that. I'm just saying that I just think this city can do with a facelift. I'll just put it like that. Now, for those of you that are looking to move here, like I told you a little bit ago, I'm fairly confident that there are plenty of employment opportunities here. Obviously, it's not going to be as much as what you would find in a larger community like Indianapolis or Louisville or even Evansville, but you're only a half hour from Bloomington, so whatever employment opportunities that you may not be able to find here, you may be able to find in Bloomington. And I would say the major setback that this city has is the fact that you're an hour and a half from the closest metro area. Okay, yeah, you're 35 minutes from Bloomington, which ain't far. But Bloomington's population is only 100 and some thousand people. Bloomington is not a metro area. So the fact that you're an hour and a half away from the closest metro area, Indianapolis or Louisville, I think honestly that's one of the main contributors of why this city is not growing. And it's instead losing people. So I would say for those of you that want to move here, depending on what type of work you do, you might want to go ahead and come up here and get yourself a job lined up before you get up here. Or if you plan to work online, you might want to go ahead and do what you gotta do to get that up and going before you get here. Because depending on what occupation you work, it may not be the easiest chore. It may not be the easiest chore to find work around here, due to the fact that the city itself is not that big, and you're over an hour from the closest metro area. And in a minute here, I'm gonna, we'll be seeing the other side of the city. But yeah, like I said, I don't think this is a bad place to live. I just think this city can do with a little bit of a facelift. I mean, that's how I feel. I mean, because honestly, I mean, I would say when it comes to the infrastructure here, I mean, the infrastructure here is definitely a lot better than many of your smaller cities in Alabama, where I currently reside. So, to be quite frank, I really can't talk too much about this city being bad, because like I said, in Alabama where I live, there's a lot of smaller cities they have way worse infrastructure than this one, and they got much higher crime numbers than here too. I mean, if you were to take this city and throw it in Alabama, this would be one of the best cities that Alabama has. And I'm not even exaggerating. I mean, as you guys can see, this city does have a nice downtown. I mean, I will say the downtown here is it's a good sized downtown considering the population here. I'll say that. And I will say that I do miss looking at a lot of these older houses, because where I'm at in Alabama, a lot of your houses are newer. Like the oldest house that you might come across might be something built in the 1940s. Like in the area where I live, the majority of the houses were built in the 1980s. So it is nice to come up here to a city like this and do videos like this, where I get to look at houses that were built in the 1800s. Back in the day when the architecture was a lot more, you know, back then people were more creative. The architecture was more unique. It wasn't so cookie cutter. Not to mention how solid that many of these older houses are. I mean, granted, I don't need to own a house as big as these houses. I would say take one of these houses and I don't know. I mean, I would say if I had a house that was older, that was maybe, what to say, 1,000 square feet, put it on at least a third of an acre, I'm good. I mean, obviously, if I find one on a larger lot than a third, I ain't chipping off of that either. As long as the area is right. So yeah, I mean, I do miss looking at these older houses. And I do miss the infrastructure that's here in Indiana, which I'm going to be all the way real. The infrastructure up here is better than the infrastructure of many parts of Alabama. So I do miss that. Like this area I'm driving around right now is not a bad area at all. At least it doesn't look bad. I mean, this area looks a lot better kept than the area that I was driving through when I first began my commentary, when I first got into the city limits. And there's a part of me that honestly, if I were to move again, I mean, like in this neighborhood I'm driving through right now, I can, I can kind of picture myself living in an area like this. I mean, because one thing I will say I miss about Indiana is, in Indiana, no matter where I lived, I always saw people outside, out and about, and not always in a negative way. I've always saw people outside walking their dog, taking walks around, taking walks in the neighborhood, outside doing yard work, sitting on their porch. As where I'm living right now, despite the fact that, at least in my opinion, we got next to the perfect climate, and during the winter, we get next to no snow most of the time. And it typically, for the most part, it doesn't get much colder than in the 50s during the day for winter. So despite the fact that we have such a nice, mild winter climate, like where I live, no one seems to come outside. And when people come outside, they come outside for maybe a couple of minutes and then they go back in. I mean, I got a neighbor across the street. They have a couple of dogs. They might go outside for maybe 5 minutes tops, and then they go right back in. And it's very rare that I see anybody just out and about walking around, as we're here in Indiana. I see people walking around on a more regular than I do in Alabama. So, I mean, there's certain characteristics I miss about Indiana. And, aside from the fact that Bedford is predominantly white, I will say as I drive through the city, it kind of reminds me of some of the neighborhoods I used to reside in when I lived here in Indiana before I left and moved to Alabama. It also reminds me of some of the neighborhoods I lived in back when I was living up in Ohio. So yeah, this area is not bad at all. I mean, yards are clean, houses are better kept. I mean, honestly, like, if I were to if I were to move to a city like this one, I mean, obviously for me, I would want a place a little more diverse. But aside from that, if I were to move to a city like this, like the area I'm driving through right now, if I was able to, well, the area that I was driving through, well, let's say a couple of minutes ago, I wouldn't mind living around that area because it's nice, it's quiet, it's clean. Now the area that I was driving through when I first began the video, they can have all that. And in a little bit here, you guys will see some of the, like I say, you'll see some more of the city that's decent. So what I said earlier about this city needing a facelift, I mean, honestly, I'll take that back. I think the only part of this city that looks a little rough around the edges is the part of the city that I went in back when I first began to record this video. But as I continue to drive around to some of these other areas, a lot of these other areas don't look bad at all. Now, some of these areas, I will say, in my opinion, the houses are way too close into each other. I wouldn't want to live that close to my next door neighbor. But aside from that, I will say the area looks fairly well kept. Alright folks, I don't really have much else to say. Everything I wanted to say and needed to say, I've said. So before I begin to repeat myself, I'm going to go ahead and let you guys finish the rest of the video. So as always, thanks for tuning in to another episode of Andrew's Life. And if you haven't subscribed at this point, consider doing that. And to help with my channel, give my videos thumbs up and interact with my channel by leaving comments in the comments section. I would appreciate it. And I'm going to thank you guys in advance for doing that. For those of you that have been doing that already, I thank you bunches. So until next time, you guys have a blessed one, and I will see you all on the next one.